One of the things that I think we get lost in here is a lot of rhetoric about whether this will be a disaster or this will be a cure. And frankly, I don't think it will be either. It's not as onerous as I think a lot of people have portrayed it, and it's not the fix that I think a lot of people hope it will be. But it can help with the problem that we have. And that's what we're trying to do, is address what we have all agreed on is a serious problem. We're calling it a crisis. We're losing affordable housing at a scary rate right now. People are having their rents increase an average of 10% a year over the past several years. A lot of those people can't afford to stay in the places where they live. We don't have any vacant places, so essentially, for a lot of people, a rent increase means that they are dislocated from their homes and often dislocated from this community. That's not acceptable for me, and I don't think it should be acceptable for the rest of the council. I know that this issue tonight makes a lot of us up here uncomfortable, and it goes against the grain of some of our political and even philosophical beliefs. But I want to be clear that the other initiatives that we're talking about, and I'm talking about things like density bonuses in infill neighborhoods, fee reductions on certain types of housing construction. Those are going to bring discomfort to other people up at this dais, and they're going to go against certain philosophies. I'm asking my colleagues and my community to put aside some of that individual discomfort and adopt a complete strategy that provides and preserves housing for all. I'm willing to put aside my discomfort on some of these programs because I believe we need to use every tool that's available to us to fix the problem. If we start picking and choosing between the tools that we have available to us based on this interest group's opposition or this person's discomfort, before long we're not going to have any tools available to us at all. We'll be left with an empty toolbox. So if this is a crisis, let's treat it as a crisis. Let's use all the tools we have available to us.
Thank you for offering your comments. I want to assure everyone that we do hear you and we do care about how this decision impacts everyone in our community. It is very important to us. This is a painful vote. This is painful for a lot of reasons. This is painful because this is an imperfect ordinance. This is not as strong as I would have loved to see coming forward for this council, especially given what I understand will be the personal consequences to my ability to serve my community after casting this vote. I look forward to receiving the information from staff on the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we are spending on other efforts to improve processing times, the operations in our community development and housing departments, the direct subsidy to housing units and housing projects that we have issued from this dais for the last several years and councils before us. I think that's going to hopefully enlighten and illuminate this conversation to demonstrate that the council is listening. This is just one imperfect tool that I'm willing to cast a vote for tonight because it will help 10,000 people in the city of Santa Rosa. It's not going to help everyone, but that's 10,000 more than were helped before I cast this vote tonight. And that's all I'm going to say.
When I look at what the challenges that's being faced by the younger generations, especially those that were just starting out that got wiped out in 2008, and those that right now that are just trying to leave the nest and launch, it's nowhere close to what it was to this baby boomer and the fortune that I had in pursuing my little slice of the American dream. So that's an issue for government to help out, because there is a role for government. If those of us in this community, and I've heard from you say that government should not interfere in the marketplace, at all, well, I guess that means zoning law should disappear too, so a pig farm can come into wherever your property is. Of course, we all agree that that should not be. At least I would hope so. So there is a role for government. If there hadn't been a role for government, we wouldn't have a banking industry or an auto industry. So we do have a role to play. As for the argument that economists say that it just doesn't work and that it's just all one-sided, there is a reason why economists are called the purveyors of the dismal science, because they're guessing just like everybody else. And these numbers are quite old for the 90% that we keep hearing. Ask yourself, how many economists predicted the great crash of 2008 and the actual stoppage of our system? Because it happened. I was on this council, and I think Mr. Sawyer was on this council, and we were wondering if we were going to run out of money. That was an actual discussion in closed session because transactions had stopped. So I'm very cognizant that government has a role to play, and I'm very thankful for that gentleman who brought the Adam Smith quotes, because it's not laissez-faire. We're all in this together. Some of us are more fortunate than others.
I really like this community. I like the people who've chosen to live here, who were born here, and who live here now. And for me, this motion is about liking the community that's here now. What we are doing is stabilizing this community. We are preventing displacement during a housing crisis from the people who make this a community. We are protecting renters, and at the same time, we're assuring landlords have rights to fair return. I don't think this is a Band-Aid. I think this is a tourniquet. I think it's an emergency action to prevent us from bleeding out our working families, our seniors, and our students, the people who are here now. So I am honored to bring forward this motion directing staff to prepare a limited rent stabilization ordinance, which would include a just cause eviction ordinance, and waive further reading of the text.
And we have our second.
I mean, the motion's already been.
Yeah,
so
I'm
I don't
just
know.
repeating it because
If
that's our
the
standard.
clerk is clear, then
Your
good, thank
votes,
you.
council. And I have 4 ayes, council members Oliveris, Schwedhelm, and Sawyer voting no.
Okay. And we have more work to do.
This is about rent control, and we have a couple of different questions relating to rent control, and we'll start with Mr. Rogers. Do you support the rent control measure adopted by the current city council?
So I actually really struggled initially with rent control. I come from a policy background, and I have concerns about whether or not it'll actually help the people that it's intending to help. But we are in a housing crisis, and I would have been willing to try almost anything to try to keep people from falling into homelessness, particularly those who are struggling to stay in their homes. So I would have supported it.
I too struggle with rent control. Fundamentally, I take great issue with it. I think it's not a very targeted policy. There are people who benefit from it necessarily, and there are those who also do not. It only affects 15% of our population, not to mention the fact that, a lot of people bought apartment complexes who bought it for being an investment to help them in their retirement. And so I don't think we should take that lightly. But all that said, we were bleeding out. I was losing friends in this community who were previously in apartments that were priced out and went up to Lake County or went to Vallejo. And so I think that the council did the right thing to kind of stem that flow, that exodus of people. Let's say time out, let's go to the drawing board, let's come up with a package of solutions that absolutely includes robust public investment in housing and see if we can bring the stability and predictability that people deserve.
Thank you. And just to clarify, by state law, we cannot regulate units built after 1995, so new construction is not affected by rent stabilization. This is not your grandfather's rent control in between occupancy. Rents return to market rate, And that does, so some of the concerns about the economic issues with rent stabilization are based on very old documentation. I am one of the people who spearheaded the rent stabilization program. We were bleeding out our working families, our young people, and our seniors. In order to have the market work, we have to have something closer to 5% vacancy rates. That's pretty typical. We had 5% around 2004, and we have a sunset for this, triggering a review when we have a 5% vacancy rate and we may no longer need rent stabilization, but we need it now in order to keep our workforce here.
Table. We like free speech, but we love free cable. We talk from the cradle, the Bill Gates fable, which leads to high speeds and Buick LeSables. We have no excuses, just great alibis, and poker faces you can't analyze. Our politicians sell our soul and our cries with blood on the hands they can't sanitize. We're the have-nots, but we're also the gon-gets. Not just talking about the Lex with the chrome kits. You can get that by yourself with the 4/5 assault on shit, then toast with patrol hits. We are the ones. We'll see you fake, tear down the state, go get your we came to fight. It's your disgrace, smash up your place. That's just polite. That's just polite. Check it out. We are the ones. We'll see you fake, tear down your state, go get your guns. We came to fight. It's your disgrace, smash up your place. That's just polite. That's just polite. Check it out now.